Hey guys, PoB DoT here, and today I bring you a new video about a Earthquake Bleeding Gladiator. I was thinking about playing Earthquake, but I wouldn't go as Berserker because everyone was playing it, and I wanted to go a little bit different, so I chose Bleeding and then Gladiator because of the Ascendancy. So we've reached level 92 with it. For the Pantheon, I'm using Lunaris and Gruthkul because we are immune to stun, which I'll explain in a moment, alright? For the Ascendancy, first nodes are Blood in the Eyes and Gratuitous Violence because of the properties regarding bleeding. It is very comfortable to play and increases our damage by a lot by using those Ascendancies. Outmatch and Outlast, same thing, more physical damage at maximum frenzy charges, quite useful. And last of all, Pain Forged instead of Arena Challenger because in the PoB Arena Challenger wasn't really useful when stacking all the damage that we wanted for the build. But if you want more attack speed while mapping and you think it's more comfortable to play, it's really up to you. Feel free to get it. But I chose Pain Forged because not only because of the block attack damage that we gain when we are damaged by a hit recently, but also, most importantly, we have some increased damage if we've taken no damage from hits recently, which increases our damage. Alright, for the PoB and the passive tree, I've, as usual, made a PoB regarding the leveling tree that you should aim for. I've separated a few trees right at the bottom here, which you can use for leveling if you want. And also on the notes, I have some notes regarding the leveling, some endgame suggestion right here, some leveling weapons that you could use, and also some gems that you could use as well if you are lost and don't know where to go. So let's talk about the jewels, basic jewels. Firstly, I chose to get damage over time, increase the maximum life, increase the damage with bleeding on both of them, and you can also get, if you can, physical damage over time multiplier, which is very useful for our survivability and also to build up damage. And a heads up for Sandro on the stream that suggested to use a Thread of Hope. This jewel drops from Cyrus. It has a radius which varies from small to large, so we have three options here: small, medium and large. In this case we are using the medium version to reach Unwavering Stance and save lots of passive points. If you don't want Unwavering Stance, once again it's really up to you, but when I was playing I really wanted to get this node here because I was leveling, and as you may know, two-handed weapons don't really have a very nice attack speed, so every time I was about to hit the ground and kill the enemies, some mob will randomly stun me and then I was going to die because I didn't do any damage at all. So Unwavering Stance was definitely a goal for me in this case. This jewel helped me a lot. It varies also the penalty regarding elemental resistances, so -10 until -20. I chose -11 because I was saving, I don't know, almost half exalt when I bought this jewel, so very useful and really up to you, really up about your currency that you have. And also you can get this slaughter node, but most importantly, Unwavering Stance. If you don't want, you can also obviously change the jewel here. Talking about cluster jewels, this is a very damage boost, all those jewels, because they add a lot of increased damage with ailments and physical damage over time multiplier, as you may see right now. So first jewel, large cluster jewel, 8 passive skills, increase the damage with hits and ailments with X's. And the nodes that we are looking for are Heavy Hitter, Run Through, and Wound Aggravation. Heavy Hitter is nice because it gives increased attack damage and increased damage with ailments. The Run Through gives us some increased damage with ailments as well, some impale, but also physical damage with axes and swords. Wound Aggravation, it gives us increased damage with ailments, increased physical damage, and physical damage over time multiplier while wielding an axe. And the medium jewel sockets, the medium cluster jewels, I mean, Both are basically the same. We are looking for a medium cluster with physical damage over time multiplier between 4 and 5 passive skills. Both of them have the passive skills Rend and Wound Aggravation. Wound Aggravation, you already know, gives us those modifiers here, but Rend gives us damage over time multiplier for bleeding and increased bleeding duration, which is amazing for this build. Alright, both jewels are basically very similar. And the small cluster jewels are similar as well. You are aiming for 2 or 3 passive skills, really depends on your preference. But the main passive here is Fatal, or Surging Vitality. Fatal gives 10% maximum life, but Surging Vitality is easier to get and it's cheaper, and it gives us almost 10% maximum life, but also some very nice regen properties, which makes our build very comfortable to play. Every 5 seconds we basically regen lots of life, so I really recommend getting this one if you're not looking for Fatal, for example. Talking about the gear, thanks to Harvest 3.11, it is very easy to craft amazing and crazy stuff, right? So in this case, we're aiming for a high DPS bleeding weapon. The main modifier here, the main important modifier here is the chance to bleeding inflicted deals 100% more damage, and all the other modifiers are basically in order to increase our physical DPS, right? I have a video which I teach how to craft this kind of weapon. Unfortunately, is in Portuguese audio, but I did in PowerPoint, so you can see all these steps which are reading, so it's very, very easy to follow up if you're watching the video, okay? In this case, our helmet is basically a life resist the nearby enemies take increased physical damage. I chose to get the Earthquake AoE, and a very underrated, in my opinion, and really powerful craft, which is increased duration of elements we inflict while focused. This craft is amazing. It really is underrated in my opinion, because it only costs 1 divine, as you can see here. It's a suffix, and you craft on the helmet, and it basically gives us tons of duration of elements. This increases our DPS by a lot. You can see that in PoB later if you want, but it's really good. We even used this in our past explosive arrow build when Ignite version was OP, so feel free to check it out, what we did in the explosive arrow build in the past. But most important thing here are life resist and nearby enemies take increased physical damage. Now it is very important to notice that the jewelry that I'm using and the body armor that I'm using, they are good, but there is a better version in my opinion, which I also put the endgame suggestion in the PoB, which I'll explain you right now. But basically what is right is it's a amulet with the physical damage over time multiplier, some very nice flat physical damage, life and resist. The anointment here is Dirty Techniques, because it gives us very nice damage over time multiplier, bleeding duration, and bleeding deals damage faster, which is basically an amazing passive skill to have, notable passive. About the rings, we basically are aiming for physical damage flat, life, and increased damage with bleeding, both on Warlord basis because of the increased damage with bleeding and the bleed duration. But this ring here has vulnerability on hit, whereas this other ring has more resist, and the crafts. What I was going to talk about the crafts is also related to the body armor as well. I crafted a body armor with Awakening Orb with the +1 socket support gems from the Elder and chance to gain frenzy charges on hit from Redeemer. Now, one thing that I'd like to point out is that there is a better way to get all the frenzy charges that we need to get the benefit from the Ascendancy, which is 10% more physical damage while at maximum frenzy charges. Instead of doing this craft here, a better way to get all the frenzy charges is to craft +1 to minimum frenzy charges on both rings and on your amulet. This way you will have 3 frenzy charges, which is the maximum frenzy charges at all times. So once you do that, you don't actually need the chance to gain frenzy charge on hit, because also we are playing a build. It's not a, I don't know, it's not a 10 attack speed per second build. You know, it's a kind of slow build to hit the ground. So now that we have all the frenzy charges at all times, you can actually get a -15 mana cost Warlord craft here. So you can see that on both rings we have -9, which is a total of -18, and honestly, between -18 down to -15, it is not a big deal. As you can see here, we can sustain our mana very easily. It's not a big problem. So I would definitely, if I was going to craft this build now, I was definitely going for a +1 frenzy on on both rings and on the amulet. And for the chest, I was going to go for a +1 support gems with a -15 mana cost. So Elder and Warlord for the Body Armour. Alright, so just have that in mind if you're going to play this build. Talking about the gloves, we did also an Awakener or craft with the damage over time and physical damage over time multiplier. The rest is basically optional, which is the physical damage to attacks. I got the increased attack speed with the Awakener craft, but it's not really necessary, and also some life, obviously. For the boots, movement speed, bleeding deals damage faster, some life and resists. The projectile spears is not necessary as well. I just got it from the craft while I was crafting the boots, but some resists are very welcome too on the craft. And this bell here, which got buffed, I don't exactly remember who told me, but this was going to be a very good option as well. It's like a budget version with a very similar effect regarding very nice rolled Stygian vices with some very nice life, some very nice damage. This belt here is giving us 75% increased effect of socked jewels. So for example, if you get a jewel with physical damage to attacks, maximum life, and increased damage over time multiplier, increased damage over time on both jewels, we will have a very similar effect of a very nice rolled belt, but at very lower cost. So it's really a recommendation that I got from one of my viewers, and I thought it would be very nice to maybe leave this on a video, so you could at least have an option here of what you could do if you had maybe less currency to spend on this build. For the flasks, we got the Divine Life Flask, Sulfur Flask, Granite, in order to get more armor, so you would probably aim for increased armor during flask effect. A Quartz Flask for the freeze modifier if you want, but most importantly because of the phasing, so you can better walk around between the mobs when you're mapping, and a Quicksilver for your movementation. The gems are Vol Ancestral War Chief with melee physical damage, Ruthless Bloodlust, main and brutality, Enlighten with Pride, Flesh and Stone and main, War Banner, Portal, Cast on Damage Taken, and Molten Shell. Both gems here should be level 20 because we have plenty of life and we want to get as much armor as possible from this buff. And Blood Rage, Second Wind, Dash, and Seismic Cry. You can either use Seismic Cry or Enduring Cry. It really depends on if you want, I don't know, more damage, more AoE, or if you want more survivability by using Enduring Cry. Really up to you. I chose Seismic Cry because I thought it would be more fun to play. And Blood Rage, Second Wind, and Dash. Those gems are lower level because I didn't have enough dex to actually equip higher gem levels. So It's really up to you. Not a real big difference, to be honest, regarding Blood Rage, because attack speed and leech, is not really necessary, but it's useful to get some frenzy charges. So if you have the frenzy charges craft here, Blood Rage, it's basically to help a little bit, just a little bit, with the physical damage leached as life. So it's really up to you. And second wind dash, those would be nice to have at higher levels, because our movimentation between bosses and mapping. And last of all, Vol Earthquake with brutality, deadly ailments, unbound ailments, less duration, and fortify. What you want to do on bossing is basically walk, obviously, and you instantly cast the Seismic Cry, which will exert your next 4 attacks. So you place your War Chief Totem and your Vol Ancestral War Chief, and then you want to hit basically 4 times, or I don't know how many times you basically feel like you can actually hit, but 4 times is very decent, because you'll be able to proc all the bleeding stacks with Crimson Dance. Once you do that, you can press focus, and then you will increase the duration of your ailments by a lot. So as you saw on the stream and on the clips, basically we hit 4 times, and then we press the focus and walk around and wait for the boss to die. Overall speaking, I really enjoy playing this build. It is a very nice build to play, regarding all the possibilities that we have in Harvest League with all the brick crafts that we have. So I invested around 20 to 25 exols. I don't really know, because prices are just crazy in this league. I crafted all of my gear, so it really gets cheaper at this point. It is a build with very nice HP, in my opinion, with very nice damage, and I had tons of fun with it. It's basically a Bleeding Bowl melee version, right? Because it's very similar things that you have on both builds, but this is a melee version of Bleeding that you could actually play if you don't really enjoy playing with bows. So really up to you. I had tons of fun, and I really recommend this build. So, and I hope you guys enjoy it too, right? So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you next time. Posso. Dá pra brincar também. A atualização do Ball Lightning tá lá na descrição do vídeo, mano. 3.11 Ball Lightning. Eu sempre tomo esse raio. É, tem que ficar ligado. O áudio dá uma ajudada, mano. Né, botar o volume aqui do diálogo, ó. Ver o chatzinho aqui. Mano, o belt pra esse shot, Red Hunter é divertido. Mas se for ver, o craftado é mais sólido, tá ligado? Ele é útil em mais situações de jogo. Não somente no mapa, mas com certeza em boss. Então, para você encontrar o último trial do lab, você pode ir no /global 820 espaço em, que daí o pessoal compartilha os trials lá. Ou você usa a profecia Dream Trial e tenta encontrar ele.